Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, one person is dead after a crash in Campbell County, Tennessee. And in California, dozens of homes have been destroyed and multiple people injured following wildfires.
And we had cooler temperatures today, and we had a nice amount of rain across the area, or some places. Details on that in a few minutes.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. In East Tennessee, a police chase resulted in a deadly crash. Deputies with the Campbell County Sheriff's Office tried to pull a car over yesterday afternoon, but the driver did not stop and drove off from police. 25-year-old Cassie Miller then led police on a chase before running off the road and hitting a tree on Howard Road in La Follette. Miller died from her injuries. A 55-year-old man was also injured in that crash. President Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump will soon be meeting at the White House to discuss the handover from one administration to the next. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
President Biden, surrounded by staffers and cabinet members, reflected on Tuesday's election and said his administration will ensure a peaceful transfer of power.
We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win.
The president says he called President-elect Trump to congratulate him and addressed voters on both sides of the polarizing election season.
Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature.
President Biden has invited President-elect Trump to the White House for a meeting about the upcoming transition, a process that the Trump team has already started from West Palm Beach.
Former WWE CEO Linda McMahon is leading the team. She ran the Small Business Administration during Trump's first term. The transition team also includes Trump's two older sons and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. In Washington, the president-elect will be bolstered by a Republican-controlled Senate and possibly a GOP House, too, with races still being decided.
It gives us I think President Trump and Republicans in Congress, and hopefully we get not only the Senate but the House, a mandate to do some really good things for this country.
As Trump prepares for a second administration, CBS News has learned the Department of Justice and Special Counsel Jack Smith's office are discussing how to wind down the federal cases against him. The DOJ has a long-standing policy against prosecuting a sitting president. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
CBS News has also learned that Special Counsel Jack Smith plans to submit a final report to the Attorney General as required by special counsel rules. However, it is not expected to include any new details not already laid out in the indictments and other legal findings. Senator Mitch McConnell was in Louisville this afternoon to celebrate a major expansion coming to the Muhammad Ali International Airport. He also had a message of unity following the election.
And I think having had an election this week, even though my side did very well, that doesn't mean we're not going to work together. And so it's my honor and thrill to be here today with all of you. Let's get underway.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has formally launched his bid to keep his job as Speaker. In a letter sent to Republican lawmakers, he laid out how he would work closely with President-elect Donald Trump. Multiple outlets have not yet called all of the House races. To control the chamber, the GOP would need 218 seats. In West Virginia, voters decided who would become that state's next governor. Republican Patrick Morrisey defeated Democrat Steve Williams and other candidates, receiving more than 62% of the votes. Morrisey is currently the state's attorney general and has served in that role since 2012. Morrisey is replacing Jim Justice as West Virginia governor. Justice, a Republican, was elected as a state senator, defeating Democrat Glenn Elliott and Libertarian David Moran. Justice won in a landslide, receiving approximately 69% of the votes. Justice has been West Virginia's governor since 2017. In Virginia, Tim Kaine was reelected to the Senate. Kaine, who is a Democrat, was elected to a third term, knocking off a Republican challenger. Kaine received approximately 54% of the vote. McCain has served as senator since 2013 and you might remember was the Democratic nominee for vice president in 2016 as Hillary Clinton's running mate. Democratic Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia announced he is battling cancer of the esophagus. The 74-year-old said he will undergo chemotherapy and immunotherapy right away. He said cancer can be tough, but so is he, and he will attack the cancer with Irish fight and humor. Connolly represents Virginia's 11th congressional district. It's an affluent and diverse area in northern Virginia and the suburbs of Washington, D.C. He was reelected to his 9th term on Tuesday. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani arrived for a hearing in his defamation case this morning. After a lengthy hearing in Manhattan, it was determined Giuliani has until the end of next week to give the lawyers of the women he defamed the keys and title of his classic car and ship them 24 watches and sports memorabilia or else face contempt sanctions. Giuliani defamed Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss after the 2020 election.
Well, we started the day off with cloudy skies and some rain across the northern portion of the viewing area. Now, the rain chances are out of here as we go throughout the evening and overnight hours, paving the way for a nice Friday. Here's the latest with live pinpoint Doppler radar right now, showing a clean sweep across eastern Kentucky. And again, we'll get a break for tomorrow, but it's when we get into the weekend that rain chances will start to pick up. We're staying mainly cloudy right now. There's Breathitt County, courtesy of our Kentucky Mesonet camera. Temperatures right now, and you can tell where the front is. Look at Harlan, 76 degrees. Hazard's at 64. Jackson's at 63. Moorhead is at 59. And you can tell, again, where the front is. We're substantially cooler as compared to 24 hours ago in Prestonsburg, as well as Ashland, Moorhead, Jackson, London, Somerset, as well as Monticello. Harlan and Jonesville, the outlier, 4 degrees warmer as compared to 24 hours ago. So we'll keep the clouds in play as we go throughout the next several hours. You can see temperatures staying in the 60s, not moving much as we go throughout the overnight hours. And then the front pushes through as we go throughout the day on Friday, keeping us in the mid to upper 60s. But again, rain chances are non-existent Friday. It's when we get into the weekend that rain chances pick up again, and we'll time that out with Future View coming up in the First Alert forecast in a few minutes. Steve.
Eric, thank you. An out-of-control wildfire is tearing through communities north of Los Angeles, forcing thousands to leave their homes. High winds and low humidity are complicating firefighting efforts. CBS's Danya Backus has the latest from Camarillo, California.
Dangerous winds and humidity lower than 10% are fueling the wildfire that's ripping through communities in California's Ventura County, about 50 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles.
These fires are dynamic. The fuels are ripe to burn. The winds are extreme. The fire is still actively burning.
The fire that started as a small brush fire Wednesday morning erupted into an inferno within minutes because of 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Fire officials say burning embers ignited fires up to 3 miles away. In just hours, it grew to 14,500 acres, or about 22.5 square miles.
The fire danger remains extremely high. This is still a very active fire and very unpredictable.
On this street in Camarillo, California, you can see just how unpredictable these wildfires are. On this side of the street, a row of burned out homes. You can't even tell where one begins and the other ends. But right across the street, there are homes that are still standing.
It's hard to see the neighbor's house. I mean, I feel lucky that, our house survived. The people across the street from us lost their house. They just moved in 2 weeks ago or so.
It was like an apocalypse around here.
This woman lost her home in Santa Paula.
It's life. We just deal with it as it comes, and we just rebuild.
Red flag warnings remain in effect for the rest of the day. Forecasters say winds will die down significantly by tomorrow. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Danya Backus, CBS News, Camarillo, California.
As of 3 p.m. Eastern, the fire has grown to more than 19,000 acres, or about 30 square miles, and was 0% contained. There have been injuries. Officials say they do not know how many people were hurt in the fire or how many structures have been destroyed. President Biden is working to limit oil drilling in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. This move came just hours after Donald Trump was declared the winner of the 2024 presidential election. Trump's 2017 tax law requires one more oil and gas drilling lease sale in the refuge before the end of 2024. The Biden administration is planning to only offer 400,000 acres, which is the lowest amount of acreage it could legally offer. Elwood Edwards, the voice of AOL's iconic greeting, "You've Got Mail," has died at the age of 74. More than 30 years ago, Edwards recorded 4 iconic lines for what was then a little-known company called America Online. Those 4 phrases were "Welcome," "You've got mail," "Files done," and "Goodbye." Those words would eventually be heard by hundreds of millions of people and become a key part of the AOL experience, propelling Edwards' voice to worldwide fame. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, it's the latest retail trend, the Keep It policy. What you need to know and why it is not something you should abuse.
And the weekend is just around the corner. We'll talk about that forecast coming up in a few minutes.